What's up, everybody? Welcome to Omnic Lab. We're a podcast that focuses on the strategy in the game of Overwatch. And we go through this just like a lab, hence the name. And we sometimes have some things blow up in our faces. But usually we have some experts to help us out and help guide our hands in pouring the mixtures in the beakers. But enough metaphors. This week is episode 100. And you know what that means? That means celebration time, boys and girls. Let's go!
Party!
It's exciting. Yes. So we're finally here. It's basically, for those of you who are unengaged, 100 is traditionally where people celebrate their 2-year anniversaries of podcast. It's a big milestone because podcasts are hard to do. And if you're doing weekly content, 100 takes a long time. Well, my name's Rob, and this is Andres. And if you haven't been here, we suggest you go through the backlog and check it out, because that's what we're doing today. That's exactly what we're doing today. We're going to talk about what's coming with the future, what's coming next week, and we're going to talk about what we learned in the Going Deeps over the course of the last 2 years, finishing our, I guess you could say, collection of them, and still trying to update some of the ones in the past.
Yeah, finishing in quotation, because I feel like this is a work in process.
It's an ongoing.
It'll never end.
Right. It'll never end. Reworks galore. We even got word today from our Discord community that Symmetra is being recategorized and reworked yet again. So we'll have that in the horizon. We still have yet to see Brigitte in actual gameplay outside of quick play. So we're going to be getting into that once that kind of settles out, and definitely revisiting some of the heroes we don't have a guest on like we did with Lucio. But without further ado, I think we have a lot of update things to go with. And let's start with the normal stuff, and then we'll go to the really hype stuff at the end and kind of lead you guys in here. So the first thing is, Our Recap is still recording, and you guys have kind of fell into a new groove. Andres, you want to talk about how you guys have adjusted since Justin had to break the bad news that he couldn't stick around with you guys?
Yeah. Well, I think we found finally a format that we're really comfortable with. Everything's going really well with Our Recap. I love podcasting with Bob and Mel. The podcast is going super well. Now we're doing it every week. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, I know that a lot of you guys in the community are already part of it and listen to it daily, but we're now in the Discord as well. We're dissecting the league. We've had some awesome figures. We've had SciShow. We've had Uber. We've had coaches like Harsha from the San Francisco Shock. So a lot of knowledgeable people that come discuss the league, all of the aspects around it. It's a great show. I love the direction that we're taking it, and we have a lot of new plans for it coming up as well. Not only that, but the league is coming to a conclusion pretty soon for the first season. So we're excited to experience that for ourselves and, podcast it to you guys.
Absolutely. We also have Omnic Meta had not one, but 2 updates over the last week that you can hype up. So special thanks and shout out to Switch Fox in the Discord, aka Switch on Twitch, or not on Twitch, sorry, on Twitter. But he had a patch rundown from 122 with the Reaper big changes, Diva changes, and all that, and kind of what the damage has changed, how much the damage has changed, what eliminations have changed, and also just the overall pick rates of these heroes and win rates by comparison, pre-patch and post-patch. It's a lot of really good info, and we've got a pretty packed schedule for you, but I cannot do this justice because there's charts, there's lots of analysis, there's also a lot of things in final at the end with a new meta in the works, that you guys can go check it out. It's really, really cool. And then also he did a hero pool sizes and categories for all heroes. And this is something you guys are want to look at and see how flexible people are versus how inflexible they are and how many heroes they do play in all tiers. So it's very, very cool stuff. Definitely shout out to Switch. And last, Switch has been doing a brand new data analysis thing for people that want to opt in. If you want more details, it has something similar to like your overtracks, your overbuffs, your Winston's Lab type stuff that you see in Owl. He's doing this for all players based off of his new scraping thing he's doing, and not just giving you what we always like to tell you as basic stats. These are stats that are going to be useful to you, ways that you can actually like interpret how well you're performing, and also tracking your games is a big goal of his in a correct way is kind of like the inspiration of this. So if you want more details, go to our Discord, discord.me/OmnicLab, and ping Switch and ask if you can opt into the channel as well as the program. Anders, did you want to help us out and tell us about Top Score Solutions, our official sponsor?
Yeah, absolutely. Ben, as everybody knows him, or AKA I Need Peeling, he's offering business consulting in the esports field. If you're an aspiring coach, starting a team, developing an app or service, trying to boost your subscriber base, or just work in the esports spheres in general, you can visit his website at topscoresolutions.com. You can also find him on Twitter at topscoreesports or join his Discord server. Ben has a master's degree in sports management and business marketing experience. His services are free of charge until the volume allows, and he is a great guy. I know him personally, and his Discord is very organized. A lot of really cool people hanging out in there, both writers or content creators, video makers, gamers of all sorts. So in general, just if you want to fall into that field of esports and just want to get connected with other people, it's a great place to find it.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the hype, shall we? So, what are we so excited about? Well, as you all know, last Friday of the month is game night month for Omnic Lab Discord. But not only that, we were trying to come up with a really good plan for episode 100, and we decided that one episode just wasn't enough. So, we're going to give you two major hype episodes. One is kind of our inspiration of what we did on our first one, where it's a big recap of the year. And this is going to be almost like a 2-year endeavor type recap. We want to talk to you about this stuff. It's really, really interesting to us. And maybe you can kind of glisten and kind of rehash some of the things that we thought was important over the course of the last 2 years. And maybe you can submit some things. But also next week is a live show during the game night. So we're basically starting the game night. We're going to kind of taper off. We're going to start a new show. And the show is not just going to be a normal show. This is not your typical strategy show. This is like Omnic Lab game night game show. So this is legit. Andres, you want to tell us some more details?
Yeah, I thought that episode 100 was a great time to give back to the community. You guys have supported us so much, and you guys have kept the show and the dream alive. You guys have created this community basically and hang out around us and have made this show so much better just by being around, all the suggestions, all the guests that you guys have helped us line up. Also the financial support that you guys have given us has allowed us to attend BlizzCon, report from there, attend the Overwatch League, all these things that before were not really in our list of possible things, but now it's almost like we can't picture ourselves not being a part of them. Thanks to you guys. So this is a moment for us to give back to you guys. We wanted to do something really fun. It's not gonna be strategy, like Rob said. This is all about having a good time, having a laugh, and giving back to you guys. So next Friday, April 27th, as Rob said, during the game night, we will be doing a game show. We will be having participants come into the show, ask them a couple of questions, see if they can answer correctly. And if they do, they'll win some prizes. Pretty easy, trivia style. We'll try to have some fun and some crazy stuff going on. It'll be just fun and games. This is going to be open to all of our patrons. If you're currently a patron of Omnic Lab and you want to get involved with this, please reach out to one of our mods or to one of us on Discord or email so we can guide you to the right places. Remember, this is going to be happening next week on April 27th. And if you want to be part of the game show, you can reach out to us. It's open to all of the current patrons. If you sign up as a patron right now to participate in it, you are also welcome in it. But just so you know, we will be going by seniority, just to be fair. If you are a long-time patron of the show, you will have preference to be in there first. And we don't know how many people want to participate in this, so I guess we'll gauge it. If it turns out 50 of you want to participate, we might have to make some selections. Yeah, we only have a limited amount of time. But just so you know, if you're a patron of the show, you are invited. Please reach out to us. We'll let you know how you can participate in it and get ready for it. April 27th, we will have prizes, we'll have questions, we'll have laughs. Also, game night will be happening. So it's gonna be, in general, a good time. Even if you don't participate on the show, you are welcome to come hang out on the Discord, play games with the entire community, play games with us, and just
be guess along in the chat. You guys can go into the game night channel and be like, "Oh my gosh, it's Sombra! That's the answer."
Yeah, you can cheat a little bit there. No, we'll have a delay. It'll be full rules. I'm just kidding. It's all fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So the rules again are going to be relatively loose on how we operate things, and we may have to make some adjustments on how many questions you need to get right in a row, or how many questions you need to get right in general on the show, depending on interest, yes, but also like people who are interested who actually can make it. Those are also things that we're trying to figure out how it's going to work and outwork. In the logistical side, we're going to have our mods and our admin help us out. We're actually dropping the bomb on them at the same time as the listener base, if they're listening to this right now. But we're going to be letting them know this week that we're going to do it, because usually mods and admin are typically there anyways for game night. It's not going to be that much more of an ask for them. But what we're going to do is we're definitely giving away prizes. I hear that from a little bird that we're probably going to be doing something to do with Overwatch League tokens. And we may even have a grand prize of an Omnic Lab mug. So not quite sure, but we might. We're still working out the details, but we don't want to like undersell you on this, because these are things that are probably going to happen, okay? But yeah, we're really excited to run this. I'm going to be doing a little bit more of the questionnaires and the stuff, and Andres and I are going to be doing a lot of back-end work on this. And then additionally, Andres is going to be doing production. So he's going to be doing like sound bites. Sometimes we're going to have sound bite questions. Like if you guys remember way back when we did a episode about whose footprints are, or whose boots be this. Like when you hear McCree in the background, you have to know that's McCree and that's not Winston. Or whose gun's firing right now.
I hope you can tell those two apart. I really hope you do.
Yeah, I mean, I screwed up majorly because it was back when Sombra like just released, and I was like,
yeah.
"There's no way that's her gun. That's crazy." But yeah, if you guys wanted more details, please ask them in the podcast questions thing. We'll be sending out some more information to our patrons as we get them this week, and the time, we're probably going to be firing up the stream between 9 and 9:30 for the show aspect, but Andres will likely be streaming the game night before and after a little. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I will not be streaming because Andres is going to be using the show, and my bandwidth is going to go through the roof for this event. So I'm probably not going to be doing some streaming on my side. But those of you who are in the game night, you are free to stream, and you're also free to share the stream with others within the Discord. You just use the stream's channel. But we have some people to thank before we go into what we learned in the Going Deeps. It's a little late on my end for this, but we have the people who are currently patrons. I have a little disclaimer that I forgot to mention, because my man, let's see, Jeff D, I think. Yes, Jeff D in Patreon asked me, why am I not getting named on the Patreon sponsors? Well, if you want to be a sponsor to the show, it's the $10 level, Diamond, and you also have to meet a specific quota, which is however many episodes we make in a month, and then that will qualify you as a sponsor. So $10 a month, $40 a month, or sorry, $10 a week, $40 a month. That's the baseline. Looks like you edited it, so you're good. So Jeff B, thank you for supporting us on Patreon, as well as Ben K, Britmas, Krista Playa, Great Golden Soldier A, Great Root Bear, Jan Jinkle, Jeff B, Jeremy Banks, Lysum, Lever Clutch, Not Matter Rye, Roger B, Ricky Tiki Shazir, Scantily Clad, Top Score Solutions, and Tragic Zach. That is such a good way to end it, I must say. Thank you guys for your support. You're helping us get to BlizzCon. We got some really sad news this week that Ben Brode, lead game designer for Hearthstone, actually just had his last day at Blizzard this Friday. So our condolences as well as our best wishes for both Blizzard and Ben, I guess you could say, as he's transitioning into a new career. But Ben is a fantastic example of Blizzard employees and vision they have for their games there. But let's talk about going deep. We're going to go real deep. We're going 2 years deep, folks. Let's talk about these shows in order that we actually produce them. So first up, Andres, is Lucio. And
oh yeah,
we did this one.
Yeah, let's do it. Before we get into them, I just kind of want to get a little briefer before we get right into the deepness of the going deeps.
Deepness.
It's been 2 years since we started the show, and it's been a long journey, man. We've done so many episodes. It's been a really cool stuff. We've met so many people. Just doing the going deeps has opened us to so many members of the community. Some of them that still hang around. Some of them have gone off to do great things, are not part of the Overwatch League or Blizzard in some sort of aspect or another. So we just kind of wanted to give you guys a guided tour of what the podcast has been through the years. And I think that the Going Deeps have been the most landmarky episodes, I would say, since those tend to have the guests. And usually we learn a lot of things. Us as hosts also learn a lot of things from having all these guys over here, from having you guys from the community ask questions, and just in general creating the content. So here it goes, the rundown of the Going Deeps. Very first one, like you said, Lucio. Lucio was the first Going Deep that we ever did. I think that at the time we thought that Lucio was a well-rounded hero. He was played in almost every game because it was a time where, you could pick multiple,
two of them.
Yeah, multiple heroes. So you could have permanent speed boost and permanent healing at all times. It was quite nice. Not for everybody, but I liked it. So we just wanted to do like an easy one going in. Lucio was our first choice. And in this episode, I think it was the first time that we conceptualized the Going Deep. We wanted to just narrow down on one hero and not dabble in anything else, not talk about any other heroes, but just that hero in relation to everything else in the game. I think if you go back and listen to that one, it probably sounds very dated. A lot of the abilities that Lucio has are no longer there anymore or have been changed in some way or another. But thankfully...
It's a National Treasure episode, folks.
Yeah. Thankfully, that is one of the episodes that we've got to redo recently, actually. We had Rami, one of my favorite guests. She was super awesome, very knowledgeable about Lucio. And if you guys actually want to go back and listen to a really good Lucio episode, I recommend that one. That one is the one.
That was pretty good. Lucio 2.0. Actually, you could even say that's probably about Lucio 6.0 from the first episode, with how many changes and reworks he's iterated over the last 2 years. To give you an idea, Lucio used to be auto pick in every single game, every single map for almost a year in both professional and in just typical ladder play, which I thought was pretty nutty. Next up, we have Diva, which we still really want to update. Diva, Zarya, Reaper. Those are our 3 targets for next Going Deeps, in case you're wondering, and that's because these are the first couple ones we did, and so we revisited Lucio because he was first. But let me tell you this. When we did the Diva episode, I learned a lot because I didn't know a whole lot of Diva, and I relied heavily on Andres' influence here, and this is back when Diva was basically like, I guess you could say she was fairly like even as far as tank consideration. And the only reason that she was even was because Winston was just everywhere, and Diva helped contest him and also eat the Tracer stuff. So that was what we really highlighted with the Diva episode. But now that she's gone through 2 very large reworks, and one of them giving her a brand new ability in the last 2 years, Diva's a big target for us moving forward, and we're still taking some recommendations as well as people that can fit within our schedule for making this happen. So if you have some favorite Diva players, please shoot us their names. I know that Overwatch League players were heavily requested, but also, let's say 99% impossible to get on the show because of OWL stuff, and they only have a week off, and even Cool Matt 69 and Poco, I guess you could say, were busy on their weeks off doing things like resting and traveling to Texas. So
yeah, living life.
Andres, did you have anything that you wanted to mention in this? Some of these are really old, so
Yeah, I think that the Diva, Sari, and Reaper. I mean, the Reaper one I remember. This was in the Beyblade meta where Anna was super prevalent, and you would just nano boost Reaper, and he would just blossom in front of the enemy team with a speed boost and just kill everybody. Maybe you had your Sarya shield him. That was about it, but that was the name of the game back then. So really, really old episodes, but I think that they helped shape what we or vision for the going deep, and also for us, we realized, okay, we really like these going deeps, but something was missing. I think that we both knew that even though we wanted to explore these heroes, Rob and I were not completely experts on every hero, and we didn't have the time to just dive into all of them, plus making the show, plus having lives. So we needed a little bit of help. And here comes our first interview on November 2nd of 2016 with none other than Fact Fiction. This episode was super cool because I had been wanting to have really good players on the show since we started the show. I think that Rob and I, one of the things that we first discussed with the show was, hey, it's going to be a good idea. This is just you and me instead of having 3 permanent people, because we can have a rotating guest, somebody who's very knowledgeable about the game, and we can have him add their perspective, because there's so many different perspectives in the scene and everybody is just good at something else, right? Somebody's good at tanks, somebody's good at DPS, somebody's really good at strategy, other people are really good at coaching. You never know. So I always thought that having all the different opinions converge would make for the strongest episode. And here we finally made it happen. Through a friend of a friend that knew Fact Fiction, he suggested, hey, he knew that we were in the hunt for a guest. And he was like, hey, I know this really good Reinhardt. He plays pretty competitively, screams all day, and he plays in some of the top teams or with some of the top players. And I was like, okay, yeah, send him over. What is his name? I was like, oh, Fact Fiction. Oh, okay, I haven't heard of him, but yeah, love to talk to him. He was a very humble guy. He decided to come on the show. That show wasn't even named Going Deep. I think that the term hadn't been coined until a few episodes later. But he was.
Now, let me tell you something. I get a lot of flack in the Discord as well as Twitter for people like, where is your Reinhardt episode? Where's your Anna episode? Like, Going Deeps didn't exist, dog. You're searching the wrong words. And that's why, if you're looking for Reinhardt, you're looking for Anna, especially if they're outdated, you can find them because you can go to our Omnic Lab website, omniclab.com/archives, go to the search bar and type, or you can go to the Going Deep things. I've actually gone back and added the tag on our website for these. Even if they're not showing up in Google, they'll show up on the website under the search engine there. So please don't at me, bro. They're on the website, okay?
They're
They may be outdated, but they're there. All right, I'm just kidding. But seriously,
the Reinhardt episode compared to some of the other ones actually aged really well. That episode, if you guys go back, actually, you can actually see how good of a player Fact Fiction was even back then. Because back then, it was like right when the game had just come out. The competitive scene was just forming, and this man already had such a good grasp on playing Reinhardt and what needed to be done. Obviously, the strategy around Reinhardt play was a little bit different because of the heroes that were used, and the meta game was just not the same. Yeah. It was just not as developed, but a lot of the principles that he says about Reinhardt in that episode still hold true, and it's still very good. He went on to play for Team USA, and now he plays in the Houston Outlaws. So you can tell that guy knew what he was doing.
On Face Clan, and he almost played for XL2 before Flame gave him a ring and said, "Hey, you want to be an outlaw?" So now he's in the Overwatch League, and he played in his debut this last 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, I believe.
I think so.
Like that. He's played quite a few maps now.
Yeah.
And with a really, really good map record under his belt, I might add. Given their scenarios of going 3-2 against 2 really good teams. So as we move forward, we actually added another person, which is, again, this is before Going Deep started, where we had a good friend of ours, Skyline. We had the pleasure of meeting him at BlizzCon last year, but he helped us out with the very first Ana episode, which was Andres and I trying to figure out, what are the staple heroes right now, and we're going to try to cover those. And this was around the time that Ana actually started gaining a lot of traction in what we called the Beyblade or spinning top Reaper meta, where you would buff Reaper with the Beyblade or with a Nano Boost, because Nano Boost would give them 50% more speed. So they would actually move faster. You would speed boost them with a Lucio. You'd throw a Zarya bubble on him, and then you'd have him spin to win with the Death Blossom in a fight, and it would just annihilate everything in that area, because basically your Reaper is invincible for about 2 seconds of his ultimate, and it's really scary.
It was some interesting times for sure.
Yes, but of course Blizzard nerfed that down to the ground and made sure that never happened again. But what they did do in this episode, what we did do in this episode, is we broke down a lot of the fundamentals in how you want to position for Ana that still hold true today. And this episode is what spearheaded me in my climb to plat for the very first time. And I was very happy about this episode because I basically just picked up Ana after this and played the crap out of her the next 2 seasons and got plat in season 3.
Ana or Skyline, he was a great guest to have. Such a well-spoken dude. This was around the time where he was getting a lot of traction with his educational videos on YouTube. And he was the type of guy that when Ana came out, he decided to grind Ana quite a bit. He wanted to get really good at Ana while everyone else dissed her. And it was like, no, Ana's not that good. She's not a good healer. Mercy's better, kind of thing. And it was kind of like the effect that every new hero has had in Overwatch. When it first comes out, right, everyone is just terrible at it, and some people are too quick to dismiss the hero. But sure enough, a few months after everyone learned how to play it, Ana's were the new hotness, and Skyline was the new hotness as well. He became Grandmaster Ana, I believe, at the time, and he spread a lot of the knowledge. It was a really cool episode, and I think that got us closer to being, okay, this is the right formula. This is what we want to go for going deeps.
Yeah, we really started to find some more traction. And so what we did is actually we got a really mysterious and slightly sketchy email from a good friend of ours, CS, on PlayStation 4. What started as something that we thought was a little sketchy ended up being one of the biggest assets we've had to the show. CS joined us on October 26th, 2016 to do a console going deep on how to play better using what people have said will be crippling, which is the thumbsticks. So we talked about those. We talked about some peripherals. We talked about some of the big key differences between console and PC. And we also emphasized what CS actually was telling us over the course of the next 2 years, which was fundamentals you learn on PC and fundamentals you learn on console are the exact same. How you operate heroes should be in the same way, and how you interpret maps and strategies should be the same. But how the execution is and the speed by which that happens are the fundamental difference things. And the mechanical side of the game is what shifts. So it's really, really cool to kind of break that down for people. And I felt like CS did an excellent job, and we had him over the course of the next 2 years to pop his head in here and there for some of our anniversary shows, for a little console update at the post show, and even just a quick half episode on just console updates when we had Symmetra and Torbjorn reworked for lower damage to balance them.
It's worth mentioning too that CS also became a mod in our Discord and community, and is the one that leads the PlayStation 4 game nights. If you have played any PlayStation game night, you know CS probably because he organizes all of them. And if you've listened to any of the console episodes, you've probably heard of CS as well. Like you said, he just reached out to the show by himself a long time ago. He was like, hey man, I'm a good console player. I'm a Grandmaster console player. I know a couple of things. If you want me on the show, I can help. And I am glad we took the chance on him. He has been with us ever since, and he is one of the greatest additions to our community. I'm really grateful for him, as well as a lot of the other people that have joined us along the journey, which we'll get to.
And he transitioned into the admin team shortly thereafter. So as we move through, we have next up one of the most listened to episodes in Omnic Lab history, the Tracer episode, which for good reason, because up until this week, which we'll get into later, Tracer has literally never been touched by a balanced patch in the game. And Faulty Lid Gaming, although at the time was only a Masters player, we took a chance on, and Andres found him on YouTube, and he has exploded. He's hit Grandmaster multiple times now. He's done a whole educational series of how to approach battles with just Tracer. nicks and knacks where you can go into little corners of of areas, how to blink across maps, and did lots of things on his YouTube page. And Faulty Lid Gaming has been an unreal asset to us when we tried to learn how to play Tracer on a fundamental level. He talks like a coach and a teacher rather than an Overwatch player, which is something that we found to be really valuable when we started looking at episodes after we had Skyline on and CS on, because that's the approach they took. So we tried to match good play with good teaching and find somewhere in the middle and not restrict people to being in Grandmaster as we move forward, because Faulty Lid Gaming knocked it out of the park and still continues to be one of the best guests we've had by virtue of the download count response of any hero. And maybe it's because it's Tracer, but I like to think it's because Faulty Lid Gaming and Andres in the interview did a fantastic job.
Yeah, that episode was really enjoyable. Like you said, I found him on YouTube. I really enjoyed the tone of all of his videos. He's very educational. He's very good at explaining what his thoughts are towards the hero. And he was very knowledgeable about Tracer at the time. I think that the episode still holds true up until this day, especially because, like you said, Tracer hasn't been touched much. And her role has always been around the sidelines, the flanker style. Although with Overwatch League, we've seen Tracer become so much more and such a versatile hero as we've seen it. But great episode and great guy. Definitely recommend checking out his content if you haven't before, or going back and listen to that episode.
Faulty Lid also did something that I learned particularly with this, which was the styles of play that you can approach to a particular hero, and not just how to play something optimally is not always correct in a shooting game like Overwatch. That's something that's going to be a repeat thing that you see in other things, and lots of people in Overwatch League are actually starting to tell you, because there are different styles of Tracer play that literally bend or break teams based on if they can play around them or play with them. And you're going to see this with our next episode around February of 2018 in the 20th. So the end of the month that we had Faulty Lid, we actually got a friend of mine that I met in Indiana, Young Genji, aka Ratchet 201 now, as a tag in the guest role on our Discord. But Ratchet is my friend Bob from America, and Bob and I ran a couple Hearthstone things, but he picked up Overwatch when we were friends and got to Grandmaster on Genji. And while the episode was a little hectic and fast, it wouldn't have been any more fitting with any other hero. So Genji was really, really exciting for us to talk about, and I know this really sparked an Andres desire to master the hero after we had that episode. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think that Genji has always been one of the heroes that has grabbed my attention. It's one of the heroes that I left for last to try to master. I think I went for guys like McCree, Widow a little sooner, even Winston and Diva. But when I finally got around to Genji, up until this day, I still keep in mind this one trick that he taught me. And it's one of the fastest ways to build ultimate, but you're basically trying to group up heroes and dash through them, or you can also use their own abilities to target as many people as you can. And somebody needs to tell AKM this, apparently, but
shots fired.
But basically, one of the things that he told me was be on the lookout for Reinhardt on the enemy team and stay close to your Reinhardt, because you can just deflect every shockwave that ever gets thrown to him, and you can build your ultimate really fast. Not only that, if you are able to deflect the shockwave into one of the squishies behind the Reinhardt and then you dash through, you will more than likely get that kill. And sure enough, I've taken that to heart. I've exercised discipline. I've learned the technique. I've done it a couple of times, and it's one of the best feelings that you can get, just reflecting at that and dashing through.
You heard it here first, guys. It's beaker breaking good. All right, let's keep going. We have March 3rd. We actually got a very different flavor for a strategy guest that we kind of dipped our toes into. We had Flame, who was previously just a really big community figure, now is the one of the two coaches for the Houston Outlaws, which I guess we have a lot of Outlaws on our show. But we did a VOD analysis episode, and this really helped with breaking down what you need to be looking for in the VOD and what you should be shifting in your approach in kind of the trial and error that you do in a game, what they call feedback cycles. And you're running through the gamut, like, is this a good approach, or is this just me making a bad approach, or is this approach fine, but my team just didn't follow up? there's all kinds of different scenarios that he helped us with in how you want to review your VODs, and sitting down with them or sitting down with another person as being helpful, and maybe even just sitting down with a coach and having them look at it for another set of eyes. This episode was really, really helpful for me. I started reviewing my VODs quite a bit more, started submitting them to friends, and I started looking for more tools to get coaching.
This was a really cool episode. We were able to catch Flame when he was still only known in the back circles of the community. This was before he went on to become one of the coaches that selected the American team for the World Cup.
Right.
And now he's also the coach for Houston Outlaws. So it's funny that we kind of had like two guys that ended up in the North American team and then Outlaws together. Yeah. But Flame, great analyst from the get-go. He was known for just going on stream and analyzing matches of high-level play. Very knowledgeable guy. And now he's doing what he was practicing back in the day. So great episode. I think that is cool even now. And it's still very relevant even now.
Sorry, I get corrected in the chat. General manager. I apologize.
General manager.
He helps with
my apologies.
Staff. He helps with the coaching staff. But yes, he is the general manager. Okay, next up. Mercy. This is back when I played a crap ton of Mercy and Ana hand in hand, and we had my man, Little Menace, really quite good player that we just happened to find. I don't even remember how Andres or I found this guy. I don't even remember who found him or how we got him on the show.
I think it was Twitch. I was just looking at Twitch streams, and I saw this crazy Mercy. And kind of just reach out to him, and he was interested in coming on the show. But one of the things that caught my attention from Little Menace is the way that he would move with Mercy. I have never seen, or up until that point, I had never seen such an unpredictable Mercy that would move so fast from one side of the battlefield to the other. He's the first person that I saw use the little trick. How do you say that? Like your little gliding trick.
Oh, the like kind of like the touch and go where you slingshot.
Like when you dash to somebody and you press spacebar in the middle of your guardian. Yeah, the slingshot.
GA.
He was so good at using this slingshot move. And back in the day, this slingshot move was even faster than it was before. But he would target Winstons that would be leaping midair, or divas that would be flying with their boosters. And he would gain vertical movement in the middle of the battle. He would gain his ultimate so fast that he would res 2 times in one fight. Granted, it was all pre-Mercy nerfs, but still, he really impressed me, and he showed me that there was a whole new level to Mercy. It was not just stand next to your tank and heal.
He also helped the community, as well as myself, really dive into what we call the timing damage boosts, which was a huge thing at the time that a lot of people were underutilizing, which was when you're pocketing or damage boosting and healing a target that has projectile DPS, you're basically weaving the shot damage boost for when someone is getting hit rather than when the gun is being fired. And it's a really hard discipline to do, but it's a very highly advanced technique that you can really up your game from kind of the middle tier to a much higher tier level of play. Just from like gold and platinum, you can really boost a lot of your ultimate charge. You have your Resurrects or your Valkyries now a lot faster. And also, we learned a lot about ultimate charge over the scope of that one interview, because when people die and you have the person who is doing the killing with your damage boost, you get a large chunk of ultimate charge when that happens. It's the same thing when Zenyatta gets a kill off of the Discord target being both struck by you and struck by an ally. And you see people like Jonak abusing this by getting the transcendences very, very fast. Let's move on to one of our more favorite episodes, I guess you could say, in the backlog, where we had Soldier 76 with one of the most vanilla heroes breakdowns, as far as like this hero is very basic and very simple, but also really advanced at the same time. And we pulled in a pro. We pulled in LG Evil's Jake at the time, and now he's the captain of the Houston Outlaws. Andres, you landed this interview, so I'm going to let you talk about this one.
Yeah, I think that I reached out to Jake through Twitter. I think he was doing a round through certain podcasts. As always, I think that he's been a smart dude, and I think that it was coming up to the World Cup. He was a great player, a very strategic player, and he was also very strategic in getting everyone to know him. And so I think that he was doing around through social media. He guested in a bunch of episodes, and I was able to catch him while he was kind of like guesting all of these, and brought him into the podcast. As you all know him, Jake is a very well-spoken guy. It was a great episode. We did a breakdown between Soldier 76 and McCree, right? Or this was only
Yeah,
Soldier
he did a little
76?
bit of a balance of like telling the difference between McCree and Soldier.
Yeah, right. We discussed that, and in general, he was such a knowledgeable guy on Soldier. He was well spoken, and when you should use all of his cooldowns, when you should get aggressive. In general, it's still an episode that stands the test of time. If you go and listen to that right now, all of the tips that he gives for Soldier are still very, very relevant. He makes a lot of emphasis in high ground and how with Soldier, it's almost like you can stay alive forever as long as you're keeping your range and keeping a good position. It still holds true to this day, and we know that he is also a great soldier. Junkrat even better, but he's still a great soldier.
Definitely claim to fame was pre-Junkrat days, let me tell you. This is back before Junkrat was a hero that he even started playing a lot. Next up, we had our 1-year anniversary of Overwatch podcasting. So that's around the April 22nd marker, which is actually 1 day past my date currently and 2 days past when Andres was recording this. But yeah, this is right around the same time, so 2-year anniversary now. And we did a really cool community show for that one where we involved a lot of other folks. We had Switch on. I think we had CS come back on. We talked a lot about some 1 year in Overwatch and 1 year in Omnic Lab breakdown as well, similar to what we're doing today. And next up, we got Little Menace's teammate, Emperor, who is a Winston and Reinhardt extraordinaire. And again, Little Menace is not going to be a tag that you're going to see in contenders yet, but I believe that he was a top contenders, or not, I guess it was a top open league team in the top 4 teams, I think, in open league. And I believe they're looking to compete yet again this year with their squad. And Menace has done a lot of things with Emperor over the scope of the things. Something that I learned from this episode that I'm still using today is the jump with a combination of the melee discussion that we talked about. And when and where you actually need to start weaving melees between your Tesla cannon when you're firing and zip-zapping targets. If you're trying to maintain your ammo, you want to do it because the damage is the same. But learning that the damage coming from Winston is really weak against armor was something that I had not really considered up until that moment. And I can attribute a lot of my current success on Winston and enjoyment of the hero to Emperor, because he really helped teach us about moving with Winston, which is one of the hardest things of the kit, despite, you know, having a pretty straightforward way to aim. The movement with Winston is actually fairly complex.
Absolutely. This was a great episode for Winston. I think that it was really insightful in the way that he thought about Winston and how he would approach the fight while keeping very mobile and trying to minimize as much damage around him, while still having these mini combos with his jump and melee to squeeze in a little bit of burst damage so you can finish off targets. Because one of the things with Winston is that your Tesla cannon is very slow. Even if you're killing a target like Tracer or McCree, which have low health pools, it still takes you quite a bit of time in which a lot of things can happen, right? Your target can get healed, or walk away, get out of your range, a million things, right? Or you can get killed. Yeah. So this little nuances, these little details in how he would squeeze out more damage and stay very mobile was very eye-opening for that hero. Very cool episode.
Absolutely. We have Pharah, which I guess is the trifecta of the same team from Deathy. Deathy is the Pharaoh to the pharmacy of Menace, and man, I remember watching a little bit of preparation for this show by watching Deathy on stream, and man, he was able to farm ultimates so fast and just like taught us a lot about predictive rocket movement. And also just the art of being aggressive and jumping on top of people with Pharaoh was something so foreign to me at the time. I always felt like you just needed to be really far away in order to get maximum value out of the hero because, you know, whatever. But he said, Farah has one of the slowest outside of Symmetra. She has the slowest projectile in the game. But you have a lot of damage and you have a lot of splash. So if somebody you actually land on with your rocket, you can use your concussive blast to not just boop them off of the wall, but you can use concussive blast to maneuver yourself on top of them in a second, like a Winston jump, and then blast them in the face and get out. So it's just really, really cool, very different style of play that a lot of people haven't really been discussing, at least up to that point that I'd seen on stream. And so that was really, really cool to kind of listen to a different approach to Farah as well as kind of the standard approach.
Yeah. On the contrary of that, though, I learned from him to rocket boost or to shoot the ground before I jump to gain maximum speed. Because if you rocket, it's kind of like the soldier rocket jump. If you rocket the floor and jump, you get a little extra boost, gaining you a little more altitude, which for Farah sometimes, like you said, you want to get close in certain occasions. Sometimes you want to keep as much range as possible. Actually, so much that soldiers or McCrees will only tickle you while your rockets still hurt a ton, especially if you're firing against a choke or places that are a little more predictable. Very cool episode.
Taught us how to get that Michael Jordan sweet air.
Michael Jordan.
All right, let's get into the next one, which we had Color Bastion or Color Blind, depending on which tag you're currently checking. But Bastion episode, which was a lot of fun. We learned so much about this because we didn't know anything. Bastion mains are out there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we learned a lot of really cool techniques about the Bastion healing technique, which had just actually released. They gave Bastion a heal right before we started doing this episode, a couple weeks prior. And Colorblind was able to help us out. She showed us some really cool ways to heal between rounds, as well as positioning and why you do certain things with your position and how you can kind of hide and hold ground and not really expose yourself or play super aggressive like most Bastions typically do and why they die. So it's really, really cool stuff to hear from Colorblind.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. Like you said, I learned a ton of new things, mainly because I almost didn't know any tricks from Bastion because of lack of play. But she does a fantastic job playing the hero, and I love the little tricks of weaving in your heals in between shots of your tank, so you can rocket jump all over the place and stay at max health the whole time.
And then we had one of our favorite episodes yet again, the developer interview with Scott Mercer on June 11th. This episode was fantastic. I literally almost ruined my computer right before the interview by spilling cereal all over my room floor.
Oh, it was hilarious. Scott Mercer walks into the room, and as soon as he sits down in the chair, Rob just spills milk all over the place, and he just panics. So he goes on to clean the milk, and Scott sits down. So it's just me by myself with Scott like, hey, Scott, how's it going? Rob will be right back. He had a little milk accident, and Scott was super nice. He just laughed it off. But it was such an awesome episode because up until that point, we had just been podcasting pretty much in our own little bubble. We had our community. It was great. But this was the first time that Blizzard pretty much acknowledged us as a podcast. And I was like, hey, yeah, we like you guys. We'll send over one of our guys to talk in your podcast. It was a milestone for the show for sure. It was a great moment for me. I felt kind of like validated, like, yes, Blizzard approves. Or I don't know. It was at least for me, it was an awesome moment. And it opened the doors for later down the line to help get things like media passes for BlizzCon. And I don't know, all in all, amazing opportunity.
Yeah, it's great. And before you guys ask, where's the next developer interview? Like, we're working on it, okay? Like, I'm still talking with people. We have to come up with something that is a little bit more specific for our next one. And we really want to do a good talk this time. I want to do it right, just like you did with Scott. A little bit more general, more purpose with the particular meta that we're dealing with at that time. But now we want to talk through some really specific things that we haven't really ironed out yet. And so we talked with the new public relations officer there on Twitter, and I've been talking with him back and forth, and we're trying to figure out what we want to talk about. But next up, we have the Torbjorn episode. So we decided to go all in on the builders over the course of the next 2 months. We had Bastion first, Then we had Desro for Torbjorn. And Desro is the man of many hats on Twitch, not just figuratively, but also literally. He has like a panda hat, cowboy hat, all kinds of crazy fun hats that he wears on stream. And he's been just a great guy to really be connected with and helped us out a lot with getting in future Twitch streaming guests. At the time, he was doing the Torbjorn one trick type thing back before, I guess you could say one trick started becoming really, really big and the Bronze, the GM challenge, started getting a bad rap. So we talked with him a lot about actually like playing one hero and why it wasn't a good idea. We talked a lot about trying to take in player hate and how to manage other players and get them to kind of calm down, as well as get them to accept that Torbjorn isn't just unusable in most contexts, and also talked about different tiers of play. When you play Torbjorn, you really have to adjust a lot of your positioning and where you put the turret.
Yep. It was a great episode. He's such a great guy. I don't think that another guy with a different personality could pull off the things that he does with Torbjorn. And this episode was as much strategy on Torbjorn as strategy as dealing with toxicity and the latter too. So I definitely recommend it for either or both if you guys are looking for both strategies.
Then we pulled in the Bomb Squad himself, PvP Twitch with Junkrat at the end of June 25th. In 2017, we pulled in a really good guest that would actually prove to be really fruitful for our show over the course of the next year. PvP would come back on the show to help us do a Doomfist going deep back when he just launched and did a big whole challenge where he did Doomfist only on one account just to see where you could go with the hero. This is back before the hitbox was dramatically changed and other things were shifting through. We also had some really cool stuff coming in for him, where we talked about trap placement and how to move as Junkrat using the mines and maneuvering that way, and then how to get value out of the Riptire before Riptire even was changed. The Riptire was actually really bad at this time. So I felt like that was a really timely episode on when we were going back to the interviews.
It was really interesting because PvP was a pioneer of Junkrat, and he was already doing some really interesting stuff before Junkrat was changed and his mine, for example, got buffed. He was already using things like throwing a mine up in the air or throwing it first, waiting for the cooldown to run out, and then launching himself up in the air and using the recently come out mine to do a double jump. So he was doing the double jump before it was even known that you could do a double jump or given the availability of the double jump. I almost want to say that he influenced some developers at Blizzard, or at least he pioneered a certain playstyle that might have gotten some developers over there to be like, this could be a good idea for Junkrat. I'm just speculating here, but he was up there, man.
It was a lot of fun for sure on that episode. And having, let's see, we had PvP back for map mastery interview a couple weeks ago as well, and also helped us out with some cool stuff. I did some things on his channel, modded his channel for a little bit, and we've just been able to kind of discuss some things even as he's breaking back into the Hearthstone scene with the newest expansion. It's been a great relationship for our show. Then we started hacking the planet. We had Fitzy here joining us on July 4th, and boy howdy was that episode a long one. We talked almost as much StarCraft in the backstory as we did about Sombra, which was a lot of fun and reminiscing, but also quite a bit of strategic talk, because he was able to utilize a lot of what he had learned with micromanaging play in an RTS style or real-time strategy game like StarCraft, and maneuver that into the macro understanding of how you want to operate and micro understanding of how you want to operate health pack management with Sombra back before her shift and change. So this was really, really cool, and how to maximize EMP and how to communicate with your team to have them follow up, as well as maximize your damage and make sure that you're denying the enemy team as much as you are helping your team.
That was a great episode. I think that I didn't know much of Sombra before we got to Fitzy, and he taught me a lot of things, at least on how to use the hack, because I would usually use a hack to hack health packs, eventually every hero one here and there, but he took the strategy of the hack to a whole nother level, especially utilizing it a lot on Reinhardt's and opening up the front line for the enemy team, and just in general taking out the hero that is harassing your back line or the main hero that is keeping your front line from moving forward, taking out the battle quick like the Diva or the Winston, for example. So a lot of cool stuff in this episode.
We also had the next episode, we had a previous guest of XRYZ, which is a weird tag and has recently, well, I guess not recently, like right after the show, he actually rebranded as Mars Xerxa. But he was our Symmetra specialist that we had on the show, and we learned a lot of really interesting techniques for gaining ultimate charge, and also where you actually can use your turrets in specific scenarios, and started making a bunch of map guides that you can go check out on YouTube, where he likes to put his stuff, strategies on denying enemies, zones, and also when to use and where to use the teleporters and the shield generators at the time, which had kind of come around to the rework.
That's one of the biggest things, right? Watching him tell us or listen to him tell us when he choose to use the teleporter, when he would hold it, when he would drop it right away. Really good insight over here. Sometimes he would wait for the right opportunity. He would see when the wave of people would come in, place it strategically so that the enemy team doesn't have much time to look for the teleporter and get rid of it. But it was almost like a mercy resurrection at the time. When your team would die, he would place it, everybody would come back, enemy team didn't have a chance at killing it. Very cool stuff.
He also taught us the art of playing Symmetra on payload maps, which is really difficult for a lot of people, especially in how he emphasized it being really good on particular areas and matchup scenarios when you're pushing a payload with a teleporter to kind of like put it behind people and like do some nifty things.
Don't do that at home, kids, though. Leave that to the professionals. Don't Symmetra.
Leave it to the pros.
Don't Symmetra on attack, okay?
Andres doesn't like seeing those turrets on his payloads. It makes it look like just spray it and then play something else. All right, we also have May, which was a lot of fun to produce this one. This is with our good friend Jardio. He is one of the craziest May players. Back when we learned that Fitzy told us that he used to main May prior to Sombra's release, he gave us Jardio as a recommendation of being a really, really good May player and was one of the top win rates on Overbuff at the time when we were checking who had high win percentages in GM. And Jardio really taught us a lot about the art of using both wall and ice block as not just movement techniques, but also area denial and zoning and splitting up teams with them, and not just using it at a choke, but splitting up teams in the middle of fights. Also the utility of freezing people between using your icicles, and using the ice block in order to bait out stuns like a McCree flashbang or the like. And also basically picking May in particular scenarios of being really, really solid, because Jardio told us that he had prior played a lot of Tracer and knew that there's a lot of value in learning a hero that you want to be targeting on a different hero. So he talked a lot about the matchup knowledge that he learned from playing Tracer, and then when he switched to May, he knew exactly what the Tracers wanted to do and how what cooldowns they had available and how to track them.
One of the things that surprised me in this episode was how well he had internalized the time it took to freeze a character, to the point where he had realized that he didn't have to hold the freeze button that long. He only had to hold it just enough for the remaining mist that was coming out of his gun to fly to the enemy hero to finish freezing them, conserving some ammo this way. And it's also a skill that translates to heroes like Moira, for example, with her spray heal, where you don't have to hold the spray until the hero is fully topped off. You can stop a little bit before the hero is topped off, and that spray kind of like continues to travel and to heal him over time. And it's kind of like the same mentality with May. As long as the mist is up in the air, it's freezing, and you can conserve. Projectile. Yeah, it's a projectile almost. Exactly. So I had never thought of the May freeze like that, and that kind of changed the way I thought about it a little bit. Very cool stuff.
Moving right along, we had a Roadhog episode, which was a very different style than what we're used to. We had a episode where we had a guest on right after a very significant nerf to the hero, and probably still a little too close to home for his good old boy Roadhog. We had Ginger Slayer on to talk about it, and Ginger was not particularly happy around the style of play that he had learned with playing a hero that was built to be that way, and helped us kind of understand what happens when Blizzard changes heroes and why learning a particular style of a hero when you're trying to master them isn't always the best. You want to try to branch out and learn different ways to play the hero. And it wasn't a matter of learning if something was enough for us, like with the abilities, or if it's too much of a nerf, but rather like really digging deep with someone that had a very particular style. We learned a lot in this episode of both production and like how to really ask good questions when somebody is kind of emotionally charged, as well as like strategically charged with how they're trying to meet in the middle. It felt like a very real situation for us to kind of experience with Ginger Slayer and like try to parse what it is about the hero that we can try to find as being home base or core to the development of how we move forward. And it's a hero that we definitely want to revisit in the future.
Right. Yeah. This was an interesting episode. Definitely one of the most polarizing, I would say, for our audience, at least as far as going deeps goes. And yeah, Ginger Slayer was a player that was very passionate about Roadhog. He loved the way that Roadhog used to be and didn't like a lot of the changes that incurred to Roadhog. And to be fair, after the changes happened, Roadhog kind of fell off the meta for a little bit. And it's only been till recently that people have been bringing him back and realizing, well, his new heal and the damage reduction it brings is actually really strong and can keep you along for very long. And even though his hook is not as lethal as it used to be, you can still one-shot a lot of heroes that are the main threats, or the heroes that you basically want to one-shot, and everyone else, you can get him incredibly out of position and just use it a little bit more creatively to get those skills, whether using your team or using the environment, like landing him into a hole, etc. I think that people have figured it out since then. So definitely one of the heroes that we want to revisit in the future and explore a little more with the new abilities.
Then we had McCrazy Curry Shot TV joining us from the League of Legends community as a coach, but now had started playing in Grandmaster for Overwatch, and he did a really, really cool breakdown for McCree, and I won't steal any more thunder from Andres for geeking out over his boy.
This episode was great. Kurishad was such an amazing guy. I think that I was super excited for this episode. Some of the feedback that we got for the episode was, I know that Andres knows a lot about McCree, but can he stop talking a little bit and let the guest talk a little bit more? And I felt so bad because I was like, no.
Those are the best.
I really
for me to read, by the way. Please send those in.
Rob loves pinging me on Discord. Hey man, we got a review for the Omnic Lab. They're talking about you.
I love giving Andres a hard time behind the scenes, guys.
I felt really bad because Kurishad was a very knowledgeable guy, but I was also very excited on the McCree episode because I felt like it was finally my time. I was like, this is what I've been training for this whole time. But all in all, I think it was a great episode. If you guys want to hear me talking a lot, you can go listen to that one. But I think that Kurishad did a great job of covering the parts that I left out.
Yeah, for sure. Just keep talking, Andres. We also have Hanzo coming up next in September of 2017 on the 3rd. We had a Hanzo episode with Arge from Finland. And Arge has been recently coming under quite a bit of fire from bans and stuff, and has really been opening my eyes to not just Hanzo play, but just like what is going on with the reporting systems and the avoid player syndrome when it's not necessarily because somebody is a one trick. Because Arge has been getting a lot of things, and he's been talking with me behind the scenes quite a bit of what he's been doing on stream, how he's been tracking his games to make sure he knows when people are reporting him, how many games he's played per account, because he's been getting banned like often, like perma-banned on accounts often. And he was a really good guest for us in dealing with people and trying to learn how to become a good streamer when these things happen. And on top of that, the strategy with Hanzo was really, really eye-opening because he talked to us about the art of flick shotting on a projectile hero that's really hard to do. And I definitely want to get him back on the show in particular because I think that he has a lot of really cool things that that he taught us with the dragon and like setting it up, and also like playing around your team's positioning and like zoning them into your team with the dragon. I thought that was really, really neat.
Arge, the man from the land, the hydraulic press. I'll always remember
Hydraulic press. Yes.
I always remember
that.
that's how he introduced himself. I thought that it was such a hilarious way to introduce yourself. But it was an awesome episode. And one thing to know from Arge, if you go watch his videos, is his aim with Hanzo is so insane. I think that he just posted this video on or Discord actually on Omnic Lab. If you go to links and images, where it's kind of like a highlight video of him. And there's a full section where every time a Genji blades in front of him, he just gets the headshot on him. And it's like a sequence of like 12 of them. And I'm pretty sure that like four
it's
of them...
the same style of aim for all of them.
Yeah, and four of them, I'm pretty sure is the same Genji on the same game in like 4 times in a row. And I'm pretty sure that that poor Genji probably uninstalled the game after that because, my God... That looks so painful. He is a aim master with Hanzo.
It's really, really great to hear his opinions on that episode. And then we had a really cool thing. We're going to try to breeze through these guys, but we're almost done. We had Carolina Ravassa, previous acquaintance of Andres' school, come in and talk about the strategy of voice acting, which was a really, really cool thing. Something completely foreign to Overwatch, but also connected with the art of talking about Sombra. And she was really, really eye-opening on some super intriguing ways to like break into the scene and like practice character development and how she's been like meeting fans and like just really been enjoying the Overwatch community kind of secondhand outside of actually playing the game.
This was one of the most charismatic over Omnic Lab episodes. Definitely check it out if you guys want just a nice, entertaining time. Carolina her personality is bigger than life. She is super awesome. She's such a nice person, and she basically carried that show. The only thing we had to do was ask her a couple of questions, and she would go off giving fantastic answers. It was such a pleasure having her on. And definitely after having her on, we've been having our eye out on maybe the possibility of having some of the other voice actors. All of them are really interesting people. All of them kind of have their side projects. And they're really cool people. Plus, they voice some of our favorite characters. So stay on the lookout. Maybe we'll have another episode with one of them.
Then we picked up the Orisa episode in September of 2018 or 2017. At the very end, we had the evils of toasters. We had Evil Toaster on the show talking about Orisa and tank play. And honestly, I was really like, I didn't know who this guy was. Andres found him on Twitch and said, this guy is sick. Trust me. And I said, okay. We pulled him on. And within a couple months, guys, he was in the launcher of being a streamer featured in Blizzard. I was like, man, Andres, you have a knack for finding those folks that are the diamonds in the rough that are going to get picked up. And yeah, you want to talk about this one?
Yeah. I usually like looking at the streamers that are not super big, because sometimes the big streamers, it's not that I don't want to have them on the show, but sometimes they just have so much stuff going on. Yeah, or they're sometimes not good teachers, or they have so much other stuff going on that it's just hard to schedule them or to get them to work out something together. So I usually look at the smaller streamers, and a lot of these guys tend to blow up later just because they're so good at what they do. Usually I'm just scouting Twitch or scouting Twitter, YouTube. If I see somebody that is very educational, that I can tell has put in some time and effort, and usually has some sort of online presence, even if it's really small, but you can tell it's putting the grind. Those are the people that I'm looking at, and that's what I saw in Evil Toaster. He was so knowledgeable of tank play and Orisa, and his stream was super educational. He would try to talk through the lines of play of why he was doing things, or why did the enemy mess up there? Why did he mess up there? And he was one of the most insightful guys on the show, actually. I love the episode we did with Orisa. He definitely gave us more insight than I even thought possible. Like a character like Orisa would have. And I don't know, I enjoyed the episode very, very much. Hopefully, we can have him back. I've been trying to reach him, but now that he's popular, he doesn't call me back.
It's too good for us now. We also had a good friend of the show who we actually just had on last week, which is Zenyatta Master, Russian Spy, depending on how you say it, and tennis coach extravaganza. He helped us a lot with learning how to play the skylines of, or not the skylines, what is it? The airwaves of Zenyatta play as a
Zenyatta Air.
Traffic controller. There we go. Air traffic control, Zenyatta. It talked a lot about the maintaining of the orbs, or priority for both Discord and Harmony, and overall learning how to position with a hero and being sneaky when you're using flanks because you don't make any sound. So that was a lot of really cool stuff. And also how to maximize volley was a lot of fun. To move forward, Andres, you want to talk to us about December 10th when we had Beef Tipsy on?
Yeah. Beef Tipsy came on December 10th to do Widowmaker. At the time, it was the last hero that we needed to do to complete the roster. Obviously, since then, we've had a couple new heroes come out, like Moira and Brigitte. But it was a very cool landmark. We finally were like, yes, we got to the finish line. Well, or so we thought. The finish line keeps on moving for us, which is a good thing. You know, it keeps the show going, so I'm not arguing about it. But it was a great episode. Widowmaker is one of my favorite heroes. It's probably the hero that I've been playing the most this month. I've been playing Widowmaker nonstop, been practicing her shots, been playing her with the team. It's a really cool hero. It's really good in this meta game at the moment, and she fits in a lot of maps as long as you can hit your shots. This episode was centered all about positioning, all about knowing what you should be watching out as Widowmaker and finding the right shots, making the environment work for you, and making yourself as much of a threat while keeping yourself as safe as possible. That is the life of the Widowmaker. I think it's a really cool episode. I definitely encourage everyone to check it out if you're interested in this hero. I learned a lot from it, and I've used a lot of the tips that he mentioned, like saving your grappling hook for when you're getting jumped, or putting your cursor where you think the character is going to be and just waiting for the character to cross the cursor and firing then, rather than like frantically moving your aim back and forth trying to find that headshot.
And then coming up to current, we did the thing that we talked at the beginning where we had PvP Twitch to talk about Doomfist, Rammy to talk about Lucio, to revisit them. And then we also had Chipsa come on, which is an EU legend of both being a pro player in the past, helping out the team in, I can't even remember the team. Was it CLG, I think he said it was, or maybe LG Loyal?
I believe so.
I cannot remember the team to save my life, but you can go revisit the episode and listen to Chipsa talk about a lot of brand new techniques that people are using on Doomfist. And it was basically a soft revisit with a pro opinion on both Doomfist and Sombra. And that's a really good episode for you to go check out. And then we finished the things up with Moira, where we had a regular coach that did a full guide on a friend of the show, Prepare to Attack with Bob and Ja of Watchpoint Radio podcast. They did a episode with Moira there, and we had an even more Moira tip episode with ours. So there's two really good things on Moira you guys can go check out. And Fu was a great guest as somebody that I had learned a lot on how to play Moira and how to play Mercy and how to play Zen from this guy. And he talked, the number one thing on that episode was talking about key healing and priorities of how you do things. And then we talked a lot about the differences of numbers and how different situations kind of pop up, and then not getting into the what if I do in this scenario, and saying, well, if you do it in this scenario, it could be good and it could be bad in a lot of other different ways. And so what you need to do is kind of have a very generic ideal of what you want to be doing and kind of work within guidelines rather than in specific scenarios, which I thought that was really useful.
Yeah, that was really cool. I think that the Going Deep with Fu was very interesting because he was one of the only guests that took his time explaining the intricacies of being a support or the role that you're trying to fill, not just the hero itself and how you fill that role as the hero, but the role itself, a healer. And I thought that it was really cool how he defined all of that before going into the hero. Definitely goes to say a lot about his coaching style, since he is an actual coach for the Wawa's bootcamp. So really cool guy. I really enjoyed him in the show.
And that's it. Show's been really long. We don't really have a whole lot of time to kind of break through strategies on what's been going on in the blue post and stuff. But thank you guys for sticking with us. Maybe if you're looking in the backlog, we can start referring people to this episode so they can go and check out like a little synopsis of everything. And you can kind of go in chronological order rather than like what the heroes are alphabetically. And it'll give you a good idea of what you want to start learning. You can go check these episodes out and also get a good idea of, if it's hard to find a certain episode, where to get it. We have to go into some patch notes, but it's not going to take us too long. We're basically just going to give them to you, and then we might break them down later. But I'm going to post it in the chat right now. Basically, there's a few updates for the PTR. We have Brigitta's Shield Bash. Cone angle is reduced from 90 to 60, which means it rewards accurate use rather than general area bashing. So it's going to be a little bit harder to hit things, but it's going to be more rewarding when you do hit what you're looking for, the stun. Genji. Deflect hitbox size is reduced. And the reasoning for this is the hitbox is big enough that it would sometimes reflect projectiles that are actually pretty far away from Genji. And so they've tightened up that hitbox and making it a little bit more accurate, and should solve the problem when he's fully, while still fully protecting him from projectiles that would actually still hit him in the front.
This is like great news and bad news for me, because from the McCree perspective, I hated when sometimes he would throw the flashbang way to the side and he would still deflect it back at you. But from the Genji perspective, I love when I deflect the flashbang when it's shot way to the side. So, yeah, a little balancing here, a little tightening of the edges.
Sure. And he also has the thing where we talked about with Fu, where the Genji cat syndrome, where they like chase the orbs that they want to reflect. It's going to be a lot harder to reflect the orbs now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, this is the big one. Hanzo. The biggest rework, and I'm so excited. Stormbow projectile speed increased from 85 to 100. This sounds really weird for people that are unengaged. I did a lot of research. Hanzo is now the fastest projectile hero in the game. The fastest prior, you're like, well, wasn't he the fastest before? No. May's Icicle was 88.88 speed meters per second. And now Hanzo's is 100. So he was the second highest, and now it's like really high. And I've been talking with some people, and this means that the arc on the distance when you're firing at really long ranges, the arc is significantly less than it was before. It's still there and it's still slight, but it is a lot less, which means your shots are going to be more straight and they're going to register faster. And people are saying, I haven't talked with Audige yet, but I will, that you might even be able to contest Pharah's really easily with this. And also the sonic arrow. Oh, go ahead, Andres.
No, I was just gonna say they're definitely making Hanzo a lot more consistent. They're taking away a lot of the complaints from randomness, right? From scatter arrow, from being really far away, and your projectile speed making you really inconsistent with your damage output. It seems like all these things are getting addressed right now with all of his changes. So I don't know. I think he might eventually be time to learn Hanzo. I've been avoiding him for so long, but I might not be able to avoid him anymore.
Yeah, I have a pretty good head start, I think. So I'm going to try to bounce back. I used to play him a lot when I was at home, but not really in competitive stuff outside of game nights. But I'm definitely going to be trying to, when this change go live, I'm probably going to be jumping back into comp and playing some more DPS. But he also has a sonic arrow change, which basically lowers the cooldown from 20 to 12. The duration that it lasts is from 10 to 6, so it lasts long. You get it more often, by about 8 seconds more often, but the thing that lasts only for about 6 seconds instead of 10, and then the radius of which you actually get to see people is down by 3 meters from 10 to 7. So it's kind of like a little bit more poignant. You want to isolate smaller areas, but you can do it more often. And but yeah, again, with this particular cooldown, you're not going to be able to do this in multiple times over the scope of a single fight. You might be able to get one at the beginning, and then at the end of the fight, when the fight's over, you might be able to get a second one in longer, prolonged fights, but that's about it, to give you an idea. Now the lunge is a huge change.
Oh yeah,
You
talk
can
about
hit
that one.
jump again. So Hanzo no longer forgot what his brother still has, which is the double jump. And his double jump is not vertical. His double jump is directional. So if you don't have a directional input on your keyboard, he will jump forward. If you use the S key, which is the back key on keyboards, or if you pull back on your analog stick, he will jump backwards. And the same thing with side to side, like Tracer blinks. The only it's like identical setup for Tracer, but the difference is you have to jump first before you can do the next one. So you are in the higher tiers of play, like we say, you're really, really easy to hit when you're jumping. And it's no different when you're using lunge as well as the first initial jump. So you still will be a sitting duck when you're using this. However, you do have a lot of mobility to move in different directions and try to be unpredictable in that way. Anders, you want to talk about this before we get to Storm Arrows?
Yeah, I mean, this just gives him much more mobility. He's going to be able to get to even more places. I mean, Hanzo was a hero that was already able to get into a lot of places because of his wall climb, but this just gives it that much more versatility. And now it gives it another degree of unpredictability because once he's in the air, he can control his movement and change his direction, which can be quite beneficial. I could even see this as a way to reposition yourself quickly to get around a corner and get that kill if you have your storm bow activated, for example. So kind of like a quick little blink kind of thing. I'm imagining it's pretty short. It's kind of like a McCree roll. That's kind of how I'm imagining it. But even
6
the
second
McCree
cooldown right now.
Nice. But even the McCree roll can be used to reposition yourself around corners all the time. So I don't know. Like I said, Hanzo looking like a hero you might want to be learning.
Yeah, I checked him out on the PTR with the new map Rialto in Italy, which is basically just the payload version during the day of the Retribution thing. And not only is that map amazing and on the PTR for you guys to go to test right now, Hanzo looks to be really good at it because there's lots of areas that you can like double jump around. You can use a lot of cover. There's lots of areas you can climb. And the Storm Arrows is the last thing here, which is replacing his existing scatter arrow with an 8-second cooldown where he can fire 6 arrows with a rapid fire that deal reduced total damage each, but are fired as if you pulled the bow all the way back. So you don't have any lag time between shots. It just goes like boom, 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 boom. And it fires 6 arrows. So this is really cool. There's an amazing bow animation to show that it's active. And there's a couple ways that I wanted to let you guys know how to use this before you jump into your games. So there's a little cooldown bar underneath 6 little icons of the arrows to show if you've spent them and how long you have. So you have 6 seconds. Or I'm sorry, you have 8 seconds during the ability once you hit the button that it lasts. So you have 8 seconds as it's ticking down to use all 6 of your shots. And then when the thing expends or you use all 6 shots, then your ability goes on cooldown for 8 seconds. Okay? Now, when you fire the shots, you don't have to hit the... Oh, go ahead.
In the beginning, I thought that the ability would last for like 2 seconds and you could fire 6 shots in those 2 seconds tops.
Now, I could be wrong on the 8-second lasting. I've been talking with some people about that. It might be 6 seconds lasting, 8 seconds cooldown, but I'm pretty sure it's 8 and 8.
Okay. Still,
so,
that's quite a long time
to do it.
Yeah.
But the arrows, I've found you have to click and hold to fire them. So as you hold it, it will go boom, 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 boom. About that fast, maybe a little faster, maybe like boom, 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 boom is about how fast the shots will fire. But you can let go of your cursor and save some of the rounds. So let's say you want to like fire, like do a couple double shot, and then you can do your jump, and then you can quadra shots a tank. So you can do something like that. Or a lot of people I've been saying that if a Winston basically jumps you, you activate the ability, you double jump backwards, and you fire you actually like double jump back, you shoot them with a fully charged arrow, you activate this ability, you fire 6 more shots, and then you can shoot another one. You can actually break a Winston bubble and 100 to 0 him like this.
Oh, that's
But
crazy.
it's a little bit more counterplay because it's sustained damage over time instead of one ability burst like the scatter has.
Right. The Winston still has a chance to maybe do something, or he can get healed somehow. There's other things you can do, but I didn't even think of that. Yeah, your jump is definitely a disengage from any Winston jump or Genji dash or, I don't know, Tracer jumping you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, if you've forgotten, the damage of the Storm Bow is 120 at a fully charged shot, and the Storm Arrows, where the reduced damage per shot is at 80. So you can still headshot and deal 160 damage with it, but you do need to land 2 of the 6 shots in order to basically kill somebody, and or use a particular shot and then kill them after that with the storm bows, like with your regular storm bow.
All right. Well, if you need me, I'll be practicing Hanzo.
All right, we have Junkrat actually got some changes too. Projectile size down from 0.3 to 0.2, and the movement speed of the tire goes from 13 to 12. 13 to 12. The changes are aimed at lowering some of the most frustrating parts about playing against Junkrat. Decreasing the frag launcher's projectile size means that he has to aim a bit more carefully to land powerful direct hits. Slowing the rip tire's speed gives opponents a little bit more time to destroy it before it detonates. These are very, very minutiae style changes that you're going to want to just know, but you might not really know unless you're trying to like aim a little bit more on Junkrat. Andres, you want to break down the Lucio stuff here?
Oh, I don't have an open no.
Okay,
that's on you.
So Lucio's wall ride got a significant change that some pros are saying is a big nerf, and other players are saying it's a big buff. So it kind of depends on where you are. But basically, wall riding is less likely to be interrupted along a single surface. Meaning, if you go around a pillar that is like a square shape or a circle shape, like on Ilios, the lighthouse, you'll literally just go all the way around it, and you don't have to pick up the jump button at all.
Okay, I did
just hold space.
I did see these changes, and they're basically making your life easier as Lucio. If you're not very good at wall riding, this is your time to be alive right now, because they're making it very, very easy. I'm just going to give my own personal opinion here on the change. I'm not a super big fan of the change. I think that maybe making it easier here and there might be nice to even up the playing field. But I think at this point, one of the biggest definers of a good Lucio is how good their movement is. And it takes a minute to get used to the timing and the rhythm of wall jumping. It takes a lot of momentum control and timing to be able to go from one wall to the other one. And it's honestly quite nice to see some of these people do some of this stuff. And it really separates the men from the boys, basically. I think that this change kind of like shrinks that gap, basically, so that a lot more people are going to be able to do the crazy DSP stanky style plays of just wall riding all over the place and staying in the point. But it also takes away from that achievement of the people who've put in the time to get really good at that hero. So I don't know. I'm not incredibly big fan of all of the quality of life changes they're doing to the wall ride, but it is going to make it very, very easy and very nice to pick up Lucio if you have never played him before. He's probably going to be pretty fun to play, honestly.
I won't share my opinion on this because I frankly think it's way too early to share this, based off of the minimal testing that I've done and also just typical raging pro opinions that happen like literally the instant something drops. But basically, the other things here are you can now go around corners, outside, and inside them without having to leave the wall. You can land on the same wall after leaping away, provided that the leap takes you far enough away from the original jumping point. The movement speed bonus you get when you leave the wall is down from 2.5 to 2 meter per second, so it's a little slower. And then they added a minimum time where you have to hold the jump key before you actually ride around a corner. And then the best change, in my opinion, Soundwave no longer consumes ammo. Guys, this is monumental. You get like 2 more full rounds of 4 shots with your Lucio thing, maybe 3, depending on how well you're managing your shots with the clip. And you just have to only worry about the boop cooldown on 4 seconds. You don't have to worry about spending your ammo anymore.
That is a very welcome change to me, because I mean, I don't play a lot of Lucio, but when I do play it, sometimes I do get into the unfortunate situation that I have the perfect boop, but I just ran out of ammo. And if you don't play the hero constantly, you kind of don't have like that timing internalized. So you might not be saving your ammo for that moment. And I think that there are things that just simply don't go together. Like you get in the way of clutch moments for a mechanic that it's kind of weird the way that works. I'm really happy that they're getting rid of this one. Not as happy with the wall ride changes.
Yeah, this is gonna make Lucio's a lot more deadly, I think, because you're just managing a cooldown instead of your ammo around the cooldown. Now you just have your ammo on your typical spread. So I really like that. There's not a whole lot of heroes that have both a cooldown and an ability, and their primary fire inextricably linked. The only other one I can think of off the top of my head would be Mei, because even Scatter Arrow doesn't burn through anything because Hanzo has infinite ammo. So there's not a whole lot of heroes that do this type of a thing. But we have the pinnacle of changes, ladies and gentlemen. Tracer is in the patch notes, and the pulse bomb is down from 400 to 300. And this is significant change. Here's what the developer comments are. Pulse bomb was too good at killing tanks who can be easily stuck due to their large size. This damage reduction makes it less powerful as a tank destroyer while keeping it a lethal target against most other heroes.
Yeah, and I think that honestly, I think that this change has finally been or arrived basically because of Overwatch League. I think that mainly in Overwatch League, we've seen some of the tracers really abuse the tanks like Winston or Diva and just straight up sticking the pulse bombs on them really fast as soon as they dive and taking them out of the battle, which I think wasn't necessarily Blizzard's first intention. I think that, yeah, sure, pulse bomb can help bring down a tank, but when pulse bomb alone with one clip of tracer is bringing down an entire Winston or a Diva at the start of every fight, especially at the top level of play, I think that at that point you might have a little bit of a problem. They're acknowledging that, and I think at this point they're making it so that pulse bomb is a little bit more desirable on your squishy targets like Mercy, like Zenyatta, McCree, or even Hanzo, which would probably be very rampant coming up. Rather than you wanted to stick it on the Diva, on the Winston, on the Reinhardt. There'll still be times for you to do it, but it's just not gonna be as desirable.
Now, Andres, I have to bring this up. I talked with Shockmaster in Discord, who's a GM Tracer and Zenyatta player. Pulse Bomb will not kill Bastion in turret form now.
Interesting. Like you're
if you're at full health, you still have a little bit of armor. Plus, you have the or you don't have the armor anymore, but you have the passive what is it? 25%, 35% damage reduction. I think it's 25%.
Yeah.
Over all damage sources.
Oh man, that one hurts because that was one of the easiest ways to get rid of a Bastion. So I guess inadvertent Bastion.
You might see more Bastion on Koth now.
Yeah,
protect the president, boys. Let's go. There's also a couple more things here that I think they actually changed. Okay, so they had a secondary additional patch notes thing that went out, and then they added it back into what we just read, so I don't have to worry about that. But there is something that went through that David Adams, according to principal level designer of David Adams, said in the forums. Horizon has been reworked on the PTR. Footage of the rework, and there is a link in the show notes if you want to see this video. I will put it in the chat for you if you're watching us live. He says, well, that wasn't supposed to happen, but there you go. We have some changes that we're still working on and testing on the map. So what you're seeing here may not be final. Also, FYI, won't be released with the next patch. And no ETA for when it'll be released, and it's still a rework in progress. So quite a bit on the ways out. Generally speaking, if you see something in the PTR, it's going to hit live next or within the next 2 cycles of patches. And this one is a lot further off because it did definitely ship out. But let me tell you, Horizon Lunar Colony looks very different. The entire scope of like where you start, where point A is, where point B is, where the spawn doors are, and the general like overall structure of the map is the same. But there is cover, there is a tree in the observatory area. Blasted up on music. There's
anniversary music
on the high ground. There's 3 new panels on the high ground, and the room in the bottom right corner when you go up the stairs on point A to go get the high ground on offense. There's that little room on the low ground where the health pack is, where people fight in Overwatch League for that health pack on Sombra. That room is completely shut down in that door. You cannot go in that way anymore. You have to go around in the main area and then in on a side door. So you're way more exposed. And then in the second area on point B, there's actually a door out of the spawn into both of these different areas. And there's a lot more hidey holes on the bottom right corner of the offense for point B. It's real cool. And I really hope to see more stuff with Horizon. So I apologize on the map mastery you guys just had because it's going to change.
I appreciate Blizzard, cutting the work for us, but couldn't they just wait to change Horizon until a
Couple
little
months.
bit later when we do our map mastery? Thanks, Blizzard. Thanks.
There's a lot more stuff that we could cover, but I think that there's a lot of things that you guys are going to want to go check out in the forums. But this is kind of the nutty things right now that you're going to want to be aware of on PTR. And special thanks to PvP Twitch for coming in late just to say PogChamp 100th episode in the chat. I really appreciate seeing some of our streamer buddies in the chat there. But I think that's probably just going to do it for us. I'm going to whip out the iTunes reviews real quick. As Andres, can you tell people how to find us on Patreon and why they should support us?
Absolutely. If you guys want to support the show, if you want to see the 200th episode and help us get there, you guys can support us on Patreon. It helps us quite a bit. Keep the show alive. Keep upgrading it. Keep bringing you the best content that we can do. Going to BlizzCon, going to the Owl League, all these other events that can make the show so much stronger, help us network with other people. You can do all of that by supporting us on Patreon. You can find us on patreon.com/OmnicLab. You can also find the show on Twitter at OmnicLab. You can find us on Facebook. You can also find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/OmnicLab. If you guys haven't catched the show live, you're welcome to come hang out with us every Friday around 9 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes the date changes depending on scheduling conflicts from Rob being in Japan or something changing like game night that night or something. But normally that is the time that we record. You can also find us on Discord. You can join us at discord.me/OmnicLab. It's a party in there. We have game nights. We have people hanging out all the time. We love our Discord community. I couldn't picture myself waking up not to our Discord community. I check it every day. It's, I don't know, it's like a group of friends that is always there. Yeah.
Yeah. Just click. I was like, oh, who is that guy that plays? Oh, yeah, it's Beef Tipsy. I'm going to see his Widowmaker. Click. And you find the stream. Really cool.
That's
Special
right.
thanks to brand new patrons. We have Alonzo Oritz and Little Ashton. Thank you guys so much for being new not diamond sponsors. Just supporting us on Patreon. It's been great to have you guys. And also Jeff D again. Sorry I haven't gotten back to you by now. It's been a nutty month for us. And we have an iTunes review from Costa Rica from Alo Nort 00. Says, hi guys from Costa Rica. Recently got a new job and it's kind of a mechanical one. You guys are helping me every day because I'm winning money growing up as an Overwatch PC console player. Today I was playing and your Anubis breakdown helped made us win. So you got a new Patreon supporter. For now, gold, but in a month I hope to become diamond. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much for being a listener in Costa Rica. There's not many of you guys out in Costa Rica that are bilingual, so props to you in practicing your English and or maybe moving outside of a different country to go to Costa Rica to listen to us. I really appreciate the listener base going more global. Really, really do. And remember, guys, next week, game night, game show. Show up, be a patron, check us out, see if you can make it. And it's going to be a riot whether you participate or whether you meme in the chat. It's going to be a lot of fun. And please, you're not going to want to miss episode 101 because we got a whole nother year coming up of Omnic Lab, and we can't wait to share it with you guys. And remember,
That's right.
not all. Oh, you know what? We can't close out the show because Andres, you haven't promoted your personal stuff. Where can people find you?
Well, before I do that, I also want to remind everyone too. First of all, yes, Friday, April 27th, next Friday, be there or be square. We're gonna be partying, game show, like Rob said, but also send us any clips, any audio clips that you would like to submit to the show, telling us anything that you've learned from the show.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that you like about the show. Any banter that you want to send to Rob or me. Something
Memes
that you've been meaning to take off your chest for a long time. Record yourself, put in a 30-second audio clip, and send it to the show. We will be playing all of them at the end of the show next week. We want to make it a community episode, so if you want to participate, that's another way that you can get involved, as well as participating in the game show if you're a Patreon. And the game night is going to be raging all night. So be there. It's going to be a really good time. Send your audio clips, and we'll see you there. Also, if you personally want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames.
If you want to send those clips in, omniclabpodcast@gmail.com. You can also send them to us via DM on Discord. Or if you really want to be super public about it, you can record it and upload it to the podcast questions channel with the tag episode 101. You can find me on Twitch or on Twitter at the tag Not Rob, and you can find me talking about the Witchwood decks tomorrow on Velen's Chosen podcast. Actually, we're really excited about that one. We had a lot of fun people hitting Legend, including Andres himself hit it just yesterday or just today. I'm not sure
today.
which.
Today I
Today.
did. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I haven't played Hearthstone in a long time. Came back this month for the new expansion and got sucked into playing Odd Rogue, a very aggressive deck, and just made it to Legend this morning or afternoon, actually. I did it on stream too, so if anyone wants to watch me struggle and play semi-decently, because I still made a lot of mistakes, but thankfully I got a couple freebies on my climb up and made it safe and sound. Yeah, it's all in there.
Thank you guys again for tuning in for 2 years. For those of you that stuck around this long, there's not many of you, but we really appreciate you. And remember, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We'll see you guys next week. And break them beakers, get some strats. Get out there. Play Hanzo. Bye.
Thanks for coming, chat. We love you guys. We love reading everything that you guys say. Icy, Jester, PvP, Blazing Bob, Stifler's Lace, Death Blow.
He's not blazing anymore. He's just blazing. Blazing bad.
Shock was here too. We got that whole crew.
Stifler.
More to teach you.
Never clutch. Thanks for the 100 bits.
Thanks,
Levins
Clutch.
gave us 100 bits.
Yeah, thanks for all the birthday donations. We appreciate it, guys.
My student.
You guys are awesome.
What do you guys think of the hats? I made it myself. I'm just kidding. I find them on Google.
Rip them from the emojis that is Google.
Bye, guys.
Bye.